This is Help, I'm a Contractor podcast. Hi, I'm Seth Lewis. I am a blue-collar business coach. Finally, someone that understands what contractors actually go through. My goal and vision is to connect business owners with knowledge while tackling some of the industry's toughest challenges. Please subscribe to my content and let's support each other to create awareness for our industry. Check out what I have going on at www.bluecollarbusinesscoach.net. Check out my book that has helped business owners across the country change their business and their life. But for now, it's time for the show. Let's get it. Today on the show, I'm so excited. We have Juliane Medd on the show with Consigil Construction. And we're going to be talking today about construction, associations, mentorships, how to network, and what that really means. So it's going to be a great one. So welcome to the show, Juliane.
Hi, Seth. Thanks for having me.
How are you today?
Doing well, running around from meeting to meeting to meeting. So
the construction life, right?
Absolutely.
When you look at, construction and your journey, you've been in the construction industry since 2007. So maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got there, and go from there.
Sure. I went to Ohio State. I am a Buckeye native. My family's all still in Ohio. I was raised in Ohio, and actually studied horticulture and agribusiness in school. So I have a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture. I thought I wanted to work with plants and that would make me happy. And that does make me happy. But, when you get older and realize you need to make a living, and not that people don't, make a good living, but off of horticulture. But I always seem to get kind of steered into business development and sales, no matter what I was doing. I did landscape design for about 10 years, high-end residential in the DC area, DC, Northern Virginia, and parts of Maryland. And, they're like, great, we love your designs, but you're going to sell them too, and you're going to help estimate them. So it's good that I got a diverse background every year, going through different jobs. I worked for myself for a little while, did freelance design, and then found out that I really like a steady paycheck. I know people can run businesses and be entrepreneurs, but I'm a steady Eddie when it comes to that. So
yeah, there's a lot said to having that steady paycheck. What'd you find that was interesting on that journey? I mean, you've seen kind of the best of both worlds from having your own business to horticulture, then going into construction. So when you were doing that for yourself, what'd you experience?
I think it was a great experience, and I'm glad that I did it. Actually, LinkedIn was huge for me. I found most of my clients on LinkedIn. There was a really big need for designers in the landscape world after kind of the 2008, 2009 market crash fiasco. A lot of companies cut back and couldn't have designers on staff, or just didn't want to and couldn't afford them. So they're like, I'll pay you per design. And it really was a great little niche market for a while there. And, but no, I found out that I'm not good with heavy commission-based jobs or per project, jobs like that. It was tough for me to manage, and it was feast or famine, but I did learn how to budget with the best of them, though. Make sure I was good, because I would never let anything not be good. So it was a good experience.
When you look at, horticulture, you started in that, what drew you to that? And maybe just talk a little bit about that, evolution of how you got to the construction, from there. I mean, what's similar, maybe what's different? What are some of the things that you've seen?
Sure. I got into horticulture basically how I was raised. My two grandmothers both had gardens bigger than my current backyard in in its entirety. So I grew up with them in the garden. I loved flowers, vegetables, you name it, always outside. So I went into that, but I really kind of loved the design aspect of the landscaping world and horticulture. So I got into that, but you need to, in order to do design, you have to be able to listen to the client, either homeowner or even if it's a commercial property. You have to listen to them. You have to know what they want, and you have to learn when to be quiet and let them, let your own opinions take a back seat. So that's kind of how I started to just meander my way into sales and business development, and ultimately into bigger construction projects. Because I did like working with clients, and I wanted more, and I'm always up for a bigger challenge. So I kind of just grew out of the residential market and wanted something different.
So we made that transition. What did that look like? Because one of the things in the construction business or industries, it's common for people to get into, let's say, horticulture, and all of a sudden they end up in construction. So I think it's helpful for people to, as we're talking about this, just to kind of map out your experiences, what you found that was successful in your journey, how did you get to that job, and just kind of look through that to ultimately where you are today.
So when I was doing horticulture and landscape design, like I said, I was constantly pushed into doing more sales with that. And then when I did freelance for myself, I would also work on estimates. And then the next job, they're like, hey, oh my God, you can design and sell and estimate. They're like, you're going to do it all. Just do it. So went into that. And then I joined a couple associations. I joined ABC, which is the Associated Builders and Contractors. That was the first one in this market that I joined. And it totally sent my career in a crazy different direction, but I love it. It was all good. So I went there basically saying that I was selling commercial turf. So, either putting greens or you name it. And so I started doing that. And then at ABC, a couple people found out that I could do estimating. And they approached me and they're like, hey, we really need estimators. I said, okay, for what? They're like, well, civil, earthwork. I said, I know dirt, but I don't know if I know that. And they rattled off the software that they use. I said, I use AutoCAD. It sounds really similar. I basically taught myself AutoCAD. I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means, but I figured out what I needed to know. And the software they use was very similar. So I just kind of threw it out there, and that's how I got into kind of out of landscaping, out of design, out of horticulture, and into the civil side of construction and bigger builds, basically.
So when you look at estimating and the sales, they're similar. They can be different. They complement each other. But for somebody that's maybe on the same journey that you were, that was in something, and now they're saying, I'm good at sales. I've always been doing sales. I can estimate. I've had to do this. What are some of the essential skills that they should have, or you found that have been very helpful, that has allowed you to keep propelling in your career?
Sure. So a lot of times estimators are not, people say they're not people. They want to sit behind their desk. They're fine with that. Maybe the quote unquote introverts of the world are more estimators, but not in all cases. But I would say if you are an estimator and you've been kind of steered in that direction and you want to do more, just honing in on your communication skills and your management skills, being able to manage other people, manage bigger projects, and then how you communicate with your clients. That'll, send you in a totally different trajectory.
So when you were doing the sales and the estimating, what other responsibilities did you have? Was it, the management, like you just kind of said? Like, did you have people, and what did that look like on maybe a day to day, maybe from start to finish?
Sure. When I was at Golden and Stafford, that was the company I was at prior to Consigli, and started as an estimator, and then moved into a role of more kind of business development slash estimating. And then I had a couple estimators underneath me at one point as a senior estimator. And, I just really kept asking for more. So day to day, I would give recommendations or things that I thought would help the business. And, just said, hey, I think we could do this better. And with them, they're always like, sure, can you do it? I said, all right, and that's how it is in some smaller companies. You may not have a sole marketing person or a sole business development. You have to wear a lot of hats. So I did marketing, social media for them, day to day, still estimating, managing a few estimators, and then finding time to also do continued education. So I didn't go for my MBA yet or anything, but just classes on marketing, social media, how to be a better leader, a better manager. I was constantly finding the time for that.
You mentioned about making recommendations. So there's a lot of companies that may be open to it, may not be.
Mm-hmm.
What's a good way or approach to bring something up like that? Because there's a lot of value. There's a lot of people and organizations that have great ideas. So I just want to speak kind of them that, you're sitting on an idea, you want to get it out there, you want to advance. What I'm hearing from you is, you've kind of made things happen, and that's a key to like your success and how you've been growing. You didn't just sit back and just let it be. You would say, hey, here's an idea, or here's something. So maybe just share like a tip or two of, how you made that successful, that, it wasn't taken the wrong way, or people were able to hear you, and you actually got it done, which is exciting.
Yeah, there is a method to it. You never want to insult someone. So you have to be careful, because if it's a process that they put in place or a software that they brought in, you have to be careful, and you can't just say, oh, this is a terrible idea and I can do it better. There's a way to do it professionally. So I've always tried to come with solutions, and then a way to implement it. Because it's all well and good to say, hey, I think we should do this, this, and this, but I don't have time to do it, and I don't know who can. So it's either you have to be prepared to do it yourself, or have backup, other people that can help you do it and that are willing to go to bat for you.
Yeah, I love that, because solutions are a big thing. I think owners can get behind when somebody brings a solution versus a problem. What's the alternative of a solution? It's a problem. So the people that are always bringing problem, this isn't good, that isn't good. There's nothing more energizing than somebody that brings a solution and says, hey, and I have a way to make it happen, and I'm willing to do it. I mean, that gets owners fired up. And if you want to skyrocket your career, you start doing that. And I think that's, kind of the path that you've had, where, you got into things and you just accelerated. And I love some of the things that you're sharing, because these are tips that people need to know if you're in construction, what organizations, and you've done it at smaller businesses and organizations and larger. And I think that's great.
Yeah. And it's, no one has the same journey going through. And a lot of this, some people are like, oh yeah, well, that's easy knowledge, or everybody should know that. But sometimes it's just a good reminder. Everybody, I'm sure, has heard that they should communicate better, or, listen more than you speak. But sometimes you forget and you get rolling. But it's always a good reminder. And these kind of continued education and different management courses are huge if you really want to advance your career.
So I know you're passionate about associations. So give us some insight to the value of associations, how they've benefited you, and what the do's and don'ts maybe. I know you're on a lot of boards and involved in a lot. Sure. So maybe you can just give some insight around that, how it's helped you, and some of the best practices.
Yeah. So, the associations that I've been involved in have advanced my career tenfold. They have done so much for me, and I've helped promote myself. And that was something I had to learn to do. And specifically women, I feel like sometimes they're not good at promoting themselves. Sometimes you have to pat yourself on the back and really put yourself out there. I was my first ABC event locally. I didn't know a soul, and that was terrifying. And, I may come across as an extrovert, but I'm actually an introvert. And so those types of situations were not, not my favorite at first, but, everyone I went to, I powered through it and met more and more and more people. So now there's times when I go to meetings. I was meeting with an architect recently, and he said, "You look really familiar." He's like, "You're at everything." And I've never met this man in my life, but he already recognized me and knows something about me just for my self-promotion and all the associations I'm involved in. And those associations, I get so much business from them, and ultimately friendships. Some people you meet and you may think that relationship doesn't matter, or, oh, they're a service provider, I don't need their service. But you never know where your journey will take you and where theirs may. You may become coworkers someday. That person may be your boss or something. You just never know. So getting involved, and more so than just, going to the networking events and having a few drinks. There's ways to get more involved, and they're not that time consuming. But I've joined so many committees. Maybe I'm a crazy person, but I fill my plate up every week, and it's helped me tremendously.
When you look at promoting yourself, I think that's a thing that a lot of people can struggle with. Obviously, there's the alternative of that when the guy that girl or gets in the group and you're like, wow, this person needs to tone it down. But
yeah.
Thanks for listening to the show. I specialize in working with contractors and service business owners just like you. If you are your business and you're looking to do less, not more, if you have a great product or service, but deals aren't closing the way that you want, maybe you've grown so much and operationally it's been a mess. Maybe it's gaining back more time, better organization, and reducing stress. You know there's a better way to running your business. It's on you to take the first step. It's time. I can help. Go to www.bluecollarbusinesscoach.net and let's start by mapping out your current business versus what you want. When you look at self-promoting, what does that look like? Because I think people want to do that. There's resistance to do it. What would be some of your tips of when you get into an association, what that looks like?
Sure. And you never want to be too salesy, but the whole point of you being, one of the points of being in associations is to promote your company and yourself. And there's good ways of doing that and really, really bad ways of doing that. I mean, the real salesy people, you could spot them from a mile away, and they're ready with their business card to shove it in your face. And it's just not the best way to go.
And then you throw it in the trash, right?
Yeah, or I find it in my car on the ground
Right.
about 2 months later. So yeah, so be careful of that. But promoting yourself, there's ways to do it where you aren't sounding arrogant and things like that. It's just talking about what you do, and if you talk about what you do well, it doesn't come across that way. Getting involved and asking other people a lot of questions, and then finding ways to relate what you do to them. And even if it's on a personal level, there's ways to just connect with people at all these association events.
I think one of the areas that's significantly undervalued is just the value of connecting and having conversations, understanding what people do, showing maybe what you offer. I mean, if somebody says they have a challenge and then you're like, well, that's pretty easy because that's exactly what we do or could help you with. It creates a natural deal. It creates a natural association, and it isn't salesy. And I think people, think that networking, to be honest, this is just my personal preference. I don't even like the word networking.
No.
I don't even like to use it. I use the word connecting because I really believe, like you said, when you connect with people, you never know where that leads. I believe all connections lead to opportunity.
Sure.
So if you're going to connect with people and you really believe that, opportunities present themselves just through connecting. So instead of networking, you say, well, I got to go talk to this person and give them my card and then make sure that I get their work. If you can reverse that thinking, I think that people would do much, much better at
Yeah,
these associations.
I agree. And I've always tried to get to know someone before I even talk business. A lot of the times I want to know, you know, what they're doing there. Where do they live? I mean, you obviously don't want to ask too personal questions if it's awkward, but you get to know someone. I just would much rather talk about where they went to school at first. You find a lot of connections that way. Most people do not like Ohio State, so that is not a good thing for me to start out with, but it's a conversation piece, something that gets kind of break down some walls, get people a little more relaxed, and then you can talk a little business. You're like, okay, I saw you on this job down in Northwest, whatever. But they're more comfortable talking to you after you've maybe had a little laugh about something that they went to Penn State and hate Ohio State or something.
Yeah,
Just to make it a little easier.
every time you say Ohio State, I have those feelings. So I mean, I'm a
I was
Penn
gonna say,
State.
does it hurt a little
Yeah,
bit?
it's never
Sorry.
good. So it's always it's just some things you can't get rid of, and that's one of them. Penn State,
I
Ohio
know.
State. So
I know.
there's
It's a
there's
bad taste.
rivalries over across the country with all
Yep.
different schools, and
Sure.
I'm sure it's the same with other ones. So
Yeah.
it's
So
a
that's
lot of fun
always
though.
it's a good one. And some people aren't sports people, so there's a lot of different things that you can ask someone. Where they are from originally. A lot of people like to start with, are you a DC native in this area? Because most people are not. When I find someone's like, oh yeah, I grew up in DC. Holy crap, that's amazing. Like, no one's from here. So it's a good starter.
So let's say, let's use the association thing. Somebody's joining or somebody's been skeptical. Just kind of walk through some of the best practices. We've talked a little bit about, building connections. I know you mentioned, deeper involvement.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've said, hey, I get a lot of business out of the association. So I'm sure somebody's saying, hey, I have been in associations and I have not got a lot of business. It's a waste of money. It's you pay $500 or $1,000 to be a part of association. They view that as an expense. Other people get $100 million job out of, or a $50 million job, or, even multi-million dollars out of an association. So there's this whole realm of crazy ideas. So if you were to say in a couple ways, like if you were to make a little roadmap for somebody that's really struggling with associations, what would you say for them to blow up their business like you have, if you could kind of map it out in an easy way?
Sure. I mean, there's no really easy way, but I will say that it takes time. It is not immediate. So the relationships that you build within these associations, it sometimes can take years. And I understand that it's an expense, but I always viewed it as, when am I ever going to be in front of almost everyone I need to be talking to in one room? Like how else would you get in front of some of these people without it being a cold call or a really generic email introduction, which a lot of people do not respond to. They should, but they don't. And so I would say it takes time, get involved and make those relationships, but view it differently. I know that it is money and some of them are costly, but you really are never going to get in front of that many people in a more relaxed setting. Because if you set up a lunch and learn or a meet and greet, sometimes you may not get the VP there. You may not get department heads in that meeting, which is fine. But you're there and they know you're there to sell. But I know I'll say networking, I know another networking event, but if you're involved in those associations, you're there for a different reason. So if you join a committee, you're getting involved in either the community, mentoring programs, different things like that. And you may be side by side with someone that you need to do business with, but now you're creating a bond with them through that association. So then when it comes time to actually do business, they're there and they already know who you are. You've done a community service project together. You've been on a board together. You can call them and be like, hey, I really would love to have a shot looking at your project. It just makes it so much easier. So there is a cost to it, but it is priceless, I think.
What's the importance of being in the right association?
That is very important as well. So there are so many out there. It's overwhelming. So always before you join an association, maybe try and find a few members that you can talk to and just ask them what the events are like, what the programming's like, before you jump in and make that investment. Because I think a lot of times people are like, all right, I know I need to be involved in this association. And then they get in it and they're like, I don't see any value in any of this. And then they waste a year and drop off. But being involved in the right ones, there's a lot of subcontractor associations, which are great. There's a lot of more general contracting associations, but you have to look at it. If you're a general contractor, you may just need to be involved in it just to kind of get your name out there for promoting. But you have to know that you're not necessarily going to get business from it. And if that's your main goal, that may not be the right one for you, because we're involved in AGC, which is a general contracting association, but so it's just a bunch of GCs and some subcontractors that are there. But that isn't my target. Those are my competitors. But it's good to know, it's still good to be involved, I think, in that association just to get your name out.
Right. It's really important to be able to know which association you're in and who your customers are, because that can be another thing of why you are or are not getting business.
Sure. And some of them are more politically driven. So depending on what type of work you do, you may need to get more political than you want to.
One of the other areas that you mentioned that was instrumental in your journey was mentoring and mentorship. So how did that play a role, and what's some of your advice there?
Yeah, I highly recommend everyone to find a mentor. First off, it can be someone in your own company, outside the company, a lot of times even outside the industry. Just find someone that you look up to, someone that you like their journey or are curious about their journey, and just start talking to them. It doesn't have to be a real formal thing like, hi, I want you to be my mentor. It doesn't have to be that label. I have a lot of people that I view as mentors. I probably never called them that, but they really have, shaped my career and my path in construction, women and men, both. It doesn't have to be that if you're a woman, you need to talk to a woman. Everyone has good advice and is willing to give it. You just sometimes need to seek it out and ask for it. Very rarely, if you send someone an email like, hey, or call them, like, I would love to sit down with you, have lunch, just kind of pick your brain on a few things. I have some big ideas, or I'm struggling with something. Pretty rarely is someone going to say no. No, it's usually pretty flattering to be asked to be a mentor or to help lead someone. And then as far as being a mentor, I've done a lot of different high school type of projects, and even younger than that, through different associations, kind of workforce development, but kind of spreading the word of the construction industry, that it's a viable and very lucrative career. And, it gets a bad rep sometimes. And sometimes people just don't know. They don't know everything that you can do with it. I was in horticulture and love plants, but I'm, now with a construction management company.
When you look at being a woman in the construction industry, what have you found has been the most rewarding and also the most challenging?
Rewarding. For me, it's everyone that I get to meet and all the powerful women that I get to watch their journey, either be a part of it, help with it. It's just been great to watch. I would even say over the past 10 years, it's changed a lot for women in the industry. And, it hasn't been easy, but there's a lot of male dominated industries out there and women can flourish. They just have to know that they have that option. And then the support system is amazing once you get in it. There's a lot of women's organizations based in the construction industry that have been really, really helpful for me. But getting involved in a male-dominated industry did not scare me at all. Where I'm working now is actually, I've never worked with so many women, ever. So it's nice. It's totally different. But I'm very welcoming of it. Didn't mind working with all men or more women. Either way, I think you can learn a lot from anyone. And the downside of being a woman in the construction industry, I mean, like I said, things are changing. There's still some old school ways of thinking that are not very conducive to an equal work environment sometimes. But I've tried and move past it, speak up when I need to, and that's a lot of it. Is just saying like, hey, that doesn't make any sense, or I'm really not okay with that. Usually it turns around pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's important to make your voice heard and make sure that you stand your ground for things that are acceptable and not. So I think that's great. The other thing that I love what you're saying is making awareness for other women that want to be in the industry. So, if somebody that's listening, thinking about the construction industry, what would you say to other, women that, are thinking about it or maybe never considered it?
Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds easy to just say it's a great career, but it is a career. It's more than a job. There are so many avenues to get in between marketing, field work, project managers. Women are extremely organized, and studies even show that we are maybe more organized than men. So our roles in estimating, project management, project engineers, all the way to superintendents in the field, we can run some really complex jobs and do it really, really well with our organization skills, our communication. I don't mean to say this, it sounds bad, but women can bring a softer touch sometimes, and that is very needed in this industry. And not that we're like soft and fluffy and can't handle hard situations, but sometimes coming in on a softer approach can really diffuse hard situations and some issues that can happen on projects. But what I would say to any woman, if they're never even heard of, any career in construction, that there's so many avenues, so many.
Awesome. Some quick questions just to wrap up. The construction industry would be better if.
It's a good one. I should have practiced that beforehand. Construction industry would be better if. Trying to think. I would say for me, I need more time in the day, but I think a lot has changed. I think a lot has gotten better. I would have, a couple years ago, I would have probably said construction industry would be better if it was more flexible. But now with, the ugly C word of COVID has changed that a lot for a lot of companies. And And I think that also makes it more attractive to women as well. Because if you want to start a family, or if you do have a family, kids are always sick, things happen. So I think the flexibility is one thing that has gotten a lot better. And that was an issue prior. And construction industry would be better if there's more women, but that's happening every day. Technology is catching up. That was a big deal for a while, that the construction industry was lagging, but I don't see that at all. I walk past our guys doing VDC and BIM, and it's 3D modeling. It's crazy.
Right. I can build a blank in my sleep.
That's estimated spreadsheet.
That counts. That counts. My biggest challenge is,
I would say managing my own schedule lately. It's been with Zoom and Teams. It's easy to just say, okay, yeah, I got a 10:30 open. I got 11. Now I'm finding it hard to actually get some work done. So I need to do better at that, managing my calendar and putting in time to just sit down and crank some stuff out.
it fills up quick. Definitely.
Yeah.
Biggest skill.
I would say my communication skills.
Cabin or beach house?
Beach.
Last thing you got on Amazon?
It's been like a week, I think.
Man.
Which is
That's going through withdrawal.
You know how busy I am if I don't have a Amazon package on the
When you get
door
home.
every day.
All right.
I don't even know what's in it.
That's the best. Favorite brand of equipment?
Favorite brand of equipment. What do I have out back? Is it Steel? Still? S-T-I-H-L? Steel? Yeah.
Perfect. I want other business owners or leaders, people in construction, to know this.
I want them to know that they need to connect more with all of their employees, that they, from, top down, your future talent is within your own company, and to grow them.
Awesome. That's really powerful. Great show. Thank you, Juliane, for being on the show. Thank you for this and giving insights to mentorship, associations. It was a great episode.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Seth. It's great.
Thanks again.
Thanks for listening. Like and share with other contractors. Start studying you